Have you ever booked an Airbnb and gotten a little more than you bargained for? I'm not talking about a leaky faucet or a lumpy mattress. I'm talking about things that go bump in the night, mysterious whispers, and the feeling that you're not quite alone. Welcome, brave viewers, to the world of haunted Airbnbs tonight. We're rechecking into some of the most spine-chilling rentals where guests have reported paranormal encounters they'll never forget. Our first story takes us to Savannah, Georgia, a city famous for its moss-draped oaks and spectral residents. A couple, let's call them Mark and Sarah, booked a charming 19th century apartment in the historic district. The place was beautiful, filled with antiques and period details. The first night was peaceful, but on the second night, things started to get weird. Sarah woke up around 3 a.m. to the sound of faint piano music. She nudged Mark awake, and he heard it to a delicate, melancholic tune drifting from the living room. They crept out of bed, hearts pounding, only to find the living room empty and silent. The piano in the corner was closed, its keys covered in a thin layer of dust. They tried to brush it off as sounds from a neighboring apartment, but the music returned the next night, clearer this time, as if someone were playing right there in the room with them. During their stay, they also experienced lights flickering on and off, and the distinct feeling of being watched. When they checked out, they casually asked the host about the history of the apartment. The host smiled knowingly and told them the original owner was a concert pianist who had passed away in that very living room. It seems she still enjoys a midnight recital. Next, we travel across the pond to York, England, one of the most haunted cities in Europe. A group of friends rented a centuries-old cottage nestled on a cobblestone street. The listing boasted character and history, which turned out to be an understatement. From the moment they walked in, an unsettling cold spot hung in the main hallway, a stark contrast to the rest of the cozy home. One of the friends, Liam, decided to take a nap in the upstairs bedroom. He was jolted awake by what felt like a child jumping on the bed. Annoyed, he sat up, expecting to see one of his friends playing a prank, but the room was empty. The door was closed. That night, as they sat around the fireplace sharing stories, they all heard the sound of children giggling and running in the hallway above them. They knew they were the only ones in the house. A quick search online revealed their rental was near an old orphanage that had a tragic fire in the 1800s. Locals believe the spirits of the children still play in the surrounding buildings. The friends spent the rest of their trip sleeping with the lights on, huddled together in the living room. Now, let's head to the sun-drenched streets of New Orleans, a city where the veil between the living and the dead is said to be particularly thin. A woman named Chloe booked a solo trip, staying in a quaint studio in the French Quarter. The apartment had a lovely balcony overlooking a courtyard. On her first evening, as she enjoyed a cup of tea on the balcony, she noticed a faint scent of cigar smoke. She looked around, but no one was there. She dismissed it, thinking it was drifting from a neighbor. But the smell persisted throughout her stay, always strongest near a particular antique armchair in the corner of the room. One night, she was startled by a deep, gruff cough that seemed to come from right beside her. Terrified, she fled the apartment and spent the night in a hotel. The next day, she spoke to the building's maintenance man, who told her the previous long-term tenant of that studio was an old man who loved two things: sitting in that exact armchair and smoking his cigars. He had passed away peacefully in his sleep, right there in the chair. Chloe cut her trip short, convinced the old man's spirit was still enjoying his favorite spot. Our fourth destination is a secluded cabin in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. A family was looking for a peaceful getaway, a chance to disconnect from city life. The cabin was remote, surrounded by dense woods, perfect for hiking and relaxation. But their peace was shattered on the second night. The father, David, was woken by the sound of frantic scratching on the outside of the cabin door. Thinking it was an animal, he got up to look through the peephole. He saw nothing. The scratching stopped, only to be replaced by a low, mournful whisper that seemed to come from all directions at once. It sounded like a woman's voice, but the words were indistinct. The entire family heard it. The children were terrified. They huddled together, listening as the disembodied voice circled the cabin for what felt like hours. The next morning, they found long, deep scratch marks gouged into the wooden door. There were no animal tracks anywhere around the cabin. They packed their bags and left immediately, the woman's sorrowful whispers echoing in their minds. Local legend speaks of a woman who got lost in those woods centuries ago, and some say her spirit still wanders, searching for a way home. Let's return to a bustling city for our next tale, this time in an old Victorian house in San Francisco that had been converted into several apartments. A young professional, Alex, rented the top-floor unit. He loved the bay windows and vintage charm. A few weeks into his stay, he started noticing that objects were being moved. His keys wouldn't be where he left them. A book would be on the floor after he'd placed it on the shelf. He initially blamed his own forgetfulness, but then things escalated. He would come home from work to find all the kitchen cabinets wide open. One evening, while watching TV, the remote control flew off the coffee table and hit the opposite wall. There was no rational explanation. Alex started feeling a constant sense of unease, a heavy presence in the apartment. His breaking point came when he woke up one night to see the shadowy figure of a woman standing at the foot of his bed, her form silhouetted against the window. He blinked, and she was gone. After doing some research, he discovered a story from the 1920s about a woman who had lived in that very house and had a reputation for being a mischievous prankster, even in life. It seemed her playful spirit was still very much at home. Our final story is perhaps the most chilling. It takes place in a renovated farmhouse in rural Pennsylvania. A group of college students rented it for a weekend retreat. The place was huge, with plenty of room for everyone. On the first night, they decided to use a spirit box app on their phone. Just for fun, they sat in the dark living room, asking questions into the void. At first, there was only static. But then, a clear voice came through. "Get out." They all laughed, thinking it was a glitch in the app. They asked another question. "Who are you?" The response was a single guttural name. They didn't recognize it. Later that night, one of the girls, Maria, woke up with a start. She saw a tall, dark figure standing in the doorway of her room, just watching her. She screamed, and the figure vanished. The next day, unsettled, they visited the local town library. They looked up the history of the property and found an old newspaper article detailing a gruesome event that occurred in the farmhouse a century earlier. The name of the man involved was the exact same name that had come through the spirit box. They didn't spend another night in that house. These stories remind us that when you book a place to stay, you might also be booking a stay with its previous residents. Whether it's a playful prankster, a melancholy musician, or something far more unsettling, the history of a place can sometimes linger long after its inhabitants are gone. So the next time you're scrolling through Airbnb and you see a listing that seems a little too old, a little too historic, or a little too good to be true, maybe ask yourself if you're prepared for any unexpected roommates. Have you ever had a spooky experience in a rental? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to read your stories. Thanks for joining me on this paranormal journey. If you enjoyed these chilling tales, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more spooky content, and ring that notification bell so you never miss an update. Stay safe, and always check the reviews.